All new at 10, the Los Albanos Ferry, named for the ebony trees that line the riverbank, has been used since before the two nations existed by Spanish explorers crossing the river. Now, Action 4's Nora Salinas tells us how it's become a meaningful historical site and a unique connection between two countries.
Los Albanos, a small community on the western portion of the Rio Grande Valley, but when it comes to this quiet area, there's more that meets the eye. A short drive down a dirt road leads you to the heart and soul of Los Albanos, the last hand-operated ferry on the Rio Grande and the only international ferry connecting the United States and Mexico.
La gente más viene a visitar a sus familiares, de compras también, y a darse una paseadita.
Jorge Isaac Estrada works on the Los Albanos ferry. He's been working on the ferry for 3 years. He's a Mexican national and makes about 180 pesos a day, equivalent to about $15. The hand-operated cable ferry is made of steel and old wood and has been operating since the late 1970s. A group of 7 people are the manpower behind this unique form of transportation, pulling hand over hand on a rope to get from one side to the other.
Yo lo que hago aquí es cobrar. Bueno, primero estás tirando aquí en mi casa. Cobrar, barrer y estirar mis ratos libres. Es lo que hago para pasar el tiempo.
The ferry, known to many as El Chalán, can accommodate up to 3 cars and about 12 pedestrians. Runs 7 days a week, except during heavy rains. And despite heavy flooding in the past, it wasn't enough to bring down the little ferry that could.
When the flooding came, when it flooded, I mean, it messed it up for everyone. So I mean, everything got washed away. We got the water up to where the windows are. We got it for 8 months.
Riders pay 50 cents per person and $2.50 per car for about an 8-minute ride to the city of Gustavo Díaz Ordaz in Tamaulipas. Nelly Martinez is one of the many frequent passengers of El Chalán.
El Chalán para mí es algo bien significativo porque tiene mucho valor para mí y para toda la gente que vivimos ahí, que nos sirve para traslado, para ver a nuestros seres queridos y todo. Lo amamos. Es una parte porque es más que un chalán, es una reliquia.
And thanks to the ferry, Martinez says she was able to visit her mother in Mexico about 2 to 3 times a week, saving her about a 60-mile round trip to the nearest bridge crossing in Rio Grande City, while giving her a connection between the two countries she loves.
Bendigo la tierra, que es México, que me vio nacer, pero más bendigo aquella, Estados Unidos, que me da de comer y que vio a mis hijos nacer.
The Los Albanos ferry is the smallest of 8 official ports of entry into Texas from Mexico. But Border Patrol officers conduct the same type of operations as any large-scale port of entry, but of course at a much slower pace.
Our officers are equipped with the same equipment, and we have X-ray systems. So all the equipment that a regular port of entry would have is there.
When the ferry began operating 55 years ago, bootleggers and other smugglers used the crossing. That's when the customs station was built to provide more security. Now the ferry is also a historical landmark, attracting tourists from all over the country and around the world.
We were just visiting for a few days, and I told her, I was like, hey, there's this one and only, like this very unique place that I really want to take you to. It's a hand-drawn ferry that takes you to Mexico and back, and so we decided to kind of come down close to the river and check it out.
In the past years, there has been talk of replacing the hand-drawn ferry with a motorized ferry, or even getting rid of it by putting a bridge up. But locals on both sides of the river seem to prefer leaving the crossing as is.
It's really the only one of its kind in the U.S. That still operates. So that's the reason that it's still there. And of course, CBP is very proud to have it under our jurisdiction.
Meanwhile, locals say they just want the Los Albanos ferry to continue as a link to families on both sides of the border, as it has for the past 55 years. In Los Albanos, Nora Salinas, Action 4 News.
And there's no talk about getting rid of that ferry, which is actually owned by 2 families, one on each side of the border.